stories you know and love in an up-to-date, edgy style. Religion, Ho-Ho's way. Alright, I am broadcasting live from the attic. You can find me on Facebook. You can follow me on YouTube, follow me on Twitter. Check out my YouTube channel. You can email me, hoho@thehohoshow.com. And as always, welcome to Religion, Ho-Ho's Way. Yeah, this is Religion, Ho-Ho's Way. This isn't the Ho-Ho Show. I'm Ho-Ho. How y'all's doing? I hate it when that happens. Alright, guys. Well, this episode of Religion, Ho-Ho's Way, I am wanting to talk about Saul. Saul is... He had this is an interesting story, and this is among other things, this is very much a story about, true redemption. It really is, okay? And whenever you actually, just sit and think, because this is one of them things I was like, yes, it's talked about in the Bible, but at the same time, it's kind of not talked about. Well, okay, they kind of skim over it, which in a matter of speaking, I think is a really big... kind of a, not necessarily a slap in the face for Paul, but, because Paul was, he wrote like 3/4 of the New Testament. Whenever you stop and think about it, he is the person who, really, did this whole, he's the father of the early church. He really is. He was the main man. He really did. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years after he started doing all this that he, even started meeting some of the other disciples of Christ. So, it was just, the guy had a rough going to on this. He really did. So, in the Bible, it starts off Paul's story as Saul, because originally his name that was given to him was Saul, and he was, let's see if I remember correctly, he was basically the son of he was a son of a Pharisee, the very people that, the very people that were behind the crucifixion of the Christ, of Jesus. So, and he, he was definitely indoctrinated in their ways, very early in his life, obviously. And, this is like, the story of Anakin Skywalker, but in reverse. Because, Saul, he started off his life as an evil, as part of the Sith. And then, and he did. He went around and like part of his job, he was like, the guy that was, it was his job to go around and, kill the Christians, to shut him up. That was part of his job, and in Scripture, we really start off Saul's life as, he was Saul, and then, sorry, I thought about a part that's later on in the story, but, he starts off as Saul, and he is basically a witness to the stoning of this guy by the name of Stephen, okay? And Stephen, oh man, dude, I tell you what, you want to talk about a guy that I absolutely love this man. I really do. Because, Stephen was standing there, and okay, now just so you guys know, I didn't freshen up on this story at all. I didn't reread it, so there's a lot of this. I'm doing this by memory completely. It's been years since I've read about the book of Acts, about Stephen and Saul becoming Paul and all that. It's been a while. Let's just say it's been a while, guys. It really has. And I think it's the book of Acts that all this is in. I can't even be sure on that one either, to be honest with you. But anywho, okay, he's like basically in, let's say, high school. Okay, he's basically in high school. That age bracket, that age frame, yeah, whatever. And but Stephen, he's basically a trial type of thing, okay? And no, wait, it wasn't a trial. It really wasn't. But he basically he lays it bare, to all the Pharisees, okay? Because it was like, hey, this guy, talked about, Jesus, and this guy talked about Jesus, and that guy talked about Jesus, and he just starts naming, the book of Isaiah, and he talks about, all the prophets of the Bible, crap. Now I'm trying to think of some of their names. Holy cow. But okay, let's just say like 5 or 6 different books of the Bible and different reference points and everything else that he just starts spouting out. I go, this is what was told about him from this prophet, and this is what was told about him from this book, and this is what was told about him from here. And here's the thing too, he's talking to Pharisees. He's talking to people that know this Bible, that know the Old Testament inside and out. I mean, these guys, by the age of, 13, they can recite the first 5 books of the Bible, or the Torah, which is basically classified as Mosaic law, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, basically by heart, okay? And at the age of 13, after the bar mitzvah, the humijigger, the coming of age type of thing that the Jews had as part of their culture, they could come under the umbrella, so to speak, as far as, becoming a student of a Pharisee and become a Pharisee himself. So that's where Saul came from. He was the son of a Pharisee, okay? And so he was engulfed in this lifestyle. And these guys, they knew the Bible frontwards, backwards, everything. So they knew the words that Stephen was talking about. And they were like, holy cow, he was right. But because it wasn't a holy cow, he was right, and it was a means by which that they should mourn and, holy cow, think about what they had just done, they were so enraged over Stephen just doing nothing more than lining out the truth to them. They were so enraged and infuriated him, they stoned him right then and there, killed him. Okay? I mean, flat out just threw stones on him until he died. Until he was dead. D-E-D, dead. Holy crap, are you kidding me? And Saul was a witness to this. Okay? And then it was shortly thereafter that they basically gave him the job, hey, you track down all these guys and you kill them. Kill them. Kill them all. We don't want these type of people around here anymore. They're going to screw up the whole ordeal. Okay? Because it was a changing of the guard. And that's what was so that's what was so groundbreaking about what Jesus was doing. Because he's not saying go to the synagogue and, pay your debt and, sacrifice your goats. He's saying, don't do all that. We are in the New Testament now. My death allows you guys to go right to God, straight to him, by yourself. You do not need all this crap that the Israelites, that the Jews are telling you. You don't need all that stuff anymore. I died so you guys can have a direct contact to my Father. That's why he did it. So he took away all the power of the Pharisees. He took all their power away. They no longer had any control over the people. Okay? Their lifestyle, their livelihood, everything about whom they are is now being challenged by this new religious group, Christians. So that's why that they're so enraged, because of their realization of this, that, oh, holy crap, this is legit. Let's kill him. And they did. And so they're, but that's what they did with Saul. Get out there, kill them all. So what happened then with Saul? So he's on the road, okay, and he hears word of some type of gathering or something that's going to happen, and he's on the road to Damascus. Okay, he leaves he leaves Taylorville, and he's on the road heading up to Springfield, and on the way, this huge light, just the sun just comes down and bam, right there, and he falls off his ass. No, he literally did it. He fell off his donkey and landed flat on his butt. Now, here was another aspect about this that was really, really kick-ass and cool. Okay? One, he was blinded. Oh yeah, completely and utterly blinded. He could not see. And two, he had two companions that were with him. Not female, he had two guys with him, two other of the thing that he was doing, his subordinates. So he had a couple subordinates with him, okay? And they didn't see shit. They didn't see nothing. They were like, what bright light? What are you talking about? Why are you blind, dude? Saul, you're insane. You're full of crap. All right? And then this voice, after he's already been, he fell off his donkey, he fell off his ass, and he is, sitting there in the dirt, and this voice comes to him. And it was the voice of Jesus. Okay, and this is one of them things, though, too, because Saul basically heard Jesus. This wasn't that long after the crucifixion and the resurrection. This was only, 4 or 5 years, maybe. I don't have the right numbers on that at all, but he heard Jesus. He knew who he was. He heard his voice without question. It was his voice. That's whose voice is in my head right now. That's whom he is hearing speaking to him. He's like, holy crap, I'm blind. Jesus is like, yeah, I know, I just blinded you. But, died. Shut up. What you're going to do is you're going to go to Damascus. You're going to go to this door, you're going to knock on it. Tell him these words, whatever it is that he told him to say, I don't remember. So he goes there. Now this guy's tripping balls, okay? He is terrified because he knows who Saul is. He knows that this is Darth Vader coming to kill him. He knows this. Jesus flat gave him his address, but here's another cool thing, though. Jesus, before this, he went to that guy's house. Before, after, it doesn't matter. But he went to that guy's house. He goes, hey, dude, look, there's going to be a guy coming. Oh, yeah, what guy? Hey, you might not want to know that. Oh, come on, tell me. Okay, fine. This guy by the name of Saul. Are you kidding me? He's going to kill me. No, he's not going to kill you. I'm going to humble him. I'm going to bring him to his knees. I'm going to knock him off his ass. He will not attack you. I got this. I got this figured out, man. It's like, all right. Whatever you say, Jesus. So he goes. All right, so he falls off his donkey. He's blinded. He can't see. He goes to the house that he was told to go to by Jesus. And he goes, he knocks on the door. Hello? Who is it? It's Paul. You mean Saul? No. Jesus, whenever he knocked me off my ass, he gave me a new name. And here's the thing too, guys. Names have power. Names mean something. It's kind of like with Abraham. Okay? His name originally was Abram, which I think means father. Abram. And then whenever God spoke to him and gave him the prophecy over his own life that he will be, that the church will be, how was that worded? The church will be blessed through him or through his people. Okay. And he renamed him from father to father of many nations, which is what Abraham literally meant back then in their native tongue. His name was Father of Many Nations. That's just pretty cool. So, again, Saul, he's blinded by the light. The light. Yeah, so that's what that's where that song came from. It's from Saul's story. So he's blinded by the light, falls off from his ass, goes to Damascus to this guy, and he's like, dude, look, I was told by Jesus to come over here and knock on your door, so I'm here. And the guy's like, and you're not here, you can't see me. And he goes, he waves his hands in front of his face, because they had wrestling back then, and they all know who John Cena was. So he's like, you can't see me. And he's like, all right, how many fingers am I holding up? He goes, you have fingers? I see spots. I have spots. I don't see nothing. So, time passed, I guess. He was there for a while, okay? And the cool thing about this is, all right, and this is a part that's like really, really cool, all right? and again, I'm going to give you a little tidbit of information that it's one of them kind of things that, I've done the research. All right, I've dug deep into this. I read it, I reread it, I researched it again from numerous different places. So I'm going to give you guys a little something here. All right, wherever it was that Paul was at, he was trained for 3 years by somebody. 3 years that he spent with a personal trainer, a personal guide. And I'm going to give you whom that was after this break. A couple minutes, guys, and I will be right back, and I will tell you who it was that Paul trained under. This is awesome. I mean, this is some cool stuff right here. A few minutes, I'll be right back. All right, and I am back, and we are broadcasting live from the attic. And as I said before, you can find me on Facebook, you can follow me on Twitter, you can check out my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook. No. Yeah, at any rate, all that good stuff. Check out my website, thehohoshow.com. And this is Religion, Ho-Ho's Way, and of course, I am your host, Ho-Ho. So, alright guys, I left you off talking about Saul becoming Paul, and then, he goes into Damascus and he talks to this guy. And now, again, I don't know if his training basically happened at this guy's house. I think it did. I'm pretty sure it did, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't fully remember that. Okay, but here's the thing. He learned everything about Christianity from, are you ready for this? From the one and only Christ. From Jesus. It was actually Jesus, because it says in the Bible, okay, now here's what it says. He says, an angel of the Lord, which as it was written, the Hebrew, the original translation of it was, an angel of the Lord actually meant an angel whom was the Lord, is more or less how it, more accurately translates to. And again, this is one of the things I dug deep into this to it was a deep thing, but yeah, he was trained by Jesus. That is totally kick-ass. For 3 years, the same amount of time that Jesus took ordinary fishermen to people whom had the intestinal fortitude to stand up against in their own, during a celebration, and just unleash the Spirit of God on an entire city, a huge city, the heart of the city, right after they just got done crucifying, crucifying Jesus, the start of this whole thing. So, totally awesome stuff. I mean, it really is. So, but I had to change something. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So he was taught by Jesus, and again, this is one of them things too, and this is why, or at least part of the reason why, because I don't remember what Saul actually stood for, and I don't remember. I have any clue what Paul actually meant, as far as this definition. I know Abraham was father of many nations. I don't know what Saul was. I have no clue. Don't remember. Doesn't matter. But here's an aspect of Saul, though, or of Paul. I'll start calling him Paul now, because that's whom he is in his life, of where we're talking about him in his life. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. So Paul, after learning for 3 years who he was, now this is a guy who started off basically his adult life hunting down and killing Christians. Okay? Now he is one of them. And obviously, and for good reason, that anywhere he went, basically, the Christians and, the disciples especially were like, no, we don't believe him. He's a plant. This is a ruse. Okay? No. We're not falling for this. This is a Terminator thing here. We're not falling for this crap. The dogs are barking. You're not coming in. We're just going to shoot you now. They was not falling for this. Okay, and so they stayed away from him. It took Paul years before he was actually able to talk to the other disciples. And I might be wrong on this too. It might have been Peter was the first one that he actually talked about or talked to. And that was just, it was a cool thing too about Paul, that he never did consider himself worthy of the, of the title of disciple, because he was a disciple. I mean, he spent just as much time with Jesus as the other disciples was. So, I mean, he was dubbed a disciple of Christ, but he never, and because of his past, because of whom he was, he never considered himself worthy of the title. He never did. Jesus called him a disciple. He didn't call himself a disciple. He considered Peter a disciple. He considered, Bartholomew and Matthew and, John and the other John and, these other, them other guys, he considered all them disciples, but he never did consider himself a disciple. He never did take that title upon himself. It was given to him, but he never took it upon himself. He was, no, I'm not worthy of that, And maybe it was his background, because, I mean, let's face it, if you were somebody whom has been, I mean, think about it, all right. Let's say, okay, you got two people next to each other, okay? One of them has a debt of like $100, and you forgive, you forgive that debt. You no longer owe me this $100, okay? That guy's going to be excited. That guy's going to be beside himself. That guy's going to be like jumping for joy, But if you have a guy next to him and he owes you a debt of $100,000 and you forgive that debt, you no longer owe me that money. You are no longer obligated legally, ethically, anything to give me back that money. The guy whom you just forgave the $100,000 debt, he is going to be even more excited about that. He's going to tell everybody he's seen, everybody he knows, everybody that he would just walk across and just, I mean, he would cross the street to tell somebody, the good news of what just happened to him in his life. And basically speaking, that's what Paul did. Okay? Because he did missionary trips all over the place. You know, the book of Thessalonians and the book of Corinthians and, you know, Chronicles and the this, the that, and the other. I mean, these are letters that he wrote to the churches in those towns, because those are actually towns, you know. But that's what he did. He went all over the place and he told people the good news about how his sins were forgiven, how you do not have to go through Catholicism or Judaism in order to become, sorry about that whole Catholicism thing. You know, I'm not even going to get into that book of worms right now. But you don't have to go through Judaism in order to become a Christian, because that's one of the other things that the Pharisees tried to do. They were like, look, no, Jesus started off as a Jew. So if you're going to become a Christian, you first have to become a Jew, and of which case that was pay your dues. You know, you got to pay the gatekeeper in order to become a Jew. You got to do some sacrifices. You got to do some. You got to pay your money. You got to do the this, the that, and the other, because that's how Jesus did it. Therefore, that's how you have to do it. And they were like, they came together and they had a meeting. All the disciples, Peter, Paul, and Simon, they got they got together and had this big old meeting with Paul. They were like, okay, so how are we going to do this? It's like, well, we ain't. It's like, and that was the thing too, because there was like, three guys that came into the room and they were like, speaking in tongues, and it was like, these guys are not Jews. They're not Jews. Prove it to me. They dropped trowel. Look at his penis. Yep, that is not circumcised. All right, well, I guess he's not a Jew. So cool. So if the Spirit of God does not care whether they are a Jew or a Gentile before becoming a Christian, then I guess neither should we. So we were like, okay, cool. So I guess, you don't have the gatekeepers of Judaism getting in the way of people becoming Christians. So that was one small step for man, one giant step for Christianity. Very cool stuff, But that's what happened. It was a very cool story of how Saul became Paul, and his true life story of redemption, and how excited he was. So excited that he went around. I mean, open up a Bible and look at the maps. Paul's missionary journeys that he did. I mean, all around the place. I mean, he went everywhere. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I think he did 4 missionary mission things that he went to. And I mean, this map is like he went through the entire Caribbean area. Caribbean, whatever. He went to Crete. He went to Thessalonica. He went to Corinthians. He went to Greek. He went to Rome. He went everywhere. Okay, and these aren't like little hop, skips, and a jump away. This isn't like traveling 30 miles. I mean, he was traveling huge amounts of miles, and he was doing it. They didn't have cars back then. They didn't have DeLoreans. They didn't have helicopters or planes or jets or trains. They had horses, they had donkeys, they had camels, and they had, feetses, And so that's what he did all this stuff with. I don't know, how long each, missionary journey, the trip that he took, his walkabout. I have no idea how long each one of his walkabouts took. I just want to call it a walkabout. So much easier than trying to say mission is that thing. So we'll just call it walkabout. I have no idea how long each one of these things took, but if you actually stop and think about it, because he was teaching, he went there. Oh yeah, dude, this is what he did in all these cities. He went to the city of Corinthians, and he was like, okay, so let me ask you guys, have you heard of this guy named Jesus? Who's Jesus? Or, yeah, we've heard about this guy named Jesus, and we heard about these other people that, they can do the same thing that Jesus did. And he was like, well, you're right. Because we have this thing that, we can heal the sick, we can raise the dead, we can even make it live. Skip it. Yeah, anyway, song in my head. I hate it whenever that happens. Make a little girl talk out of her head. He's the one. Yeah, so good times. But he would go there, and then he would heal the sick. He would make the lame walk. He could make the blind see. He can make the deaf hear. And he did all these miracles, the same miracles that Jesus himself did whenever he was walking around. That's what Paul did. That's what Peter did. That's what all these other guys did. Raised the dead. And they just send the Holy Ghost down onto him. And it was just amazing times. It was like, okay, so yeah, here it is. This is what it's all about. Now, you guys do it. Huh? That's right. I'll stick around for a while. I'll teach you guys what I know. I'll give you the crash course. And then I'm going to go about my merry way. But don't fret, don't worry about it. Just do it. You got the Spirit of God here with you that'll help you and guide you along the way. Just listen to him. Okay, cool. So he'd go about his merry way after a week or after a month or however long it was that it took him. And then he'd go down to the next town, or like the next area or wherever it was that he was going. And then he'd do the same thing. He'd find these people, he'd meet up with them, and he'd do the miracles. He'd do all the miracles that Jesus did whenever he was miracle and working stuff. Awesome times. That is how the early church was built. Miracles and wonders, raising of the dead, healing the sick, making the lame walk, the blind to see. Makes the lame to walk and the blind to see. Yeah, that's what he did. So cool stuff on how the early church was made. And that's, and he'd go on his walkabout. He'd go back to the churches, how you guys doing? Oh, we're doing good. Okay, well, I'm going to stick around for a couple days and, help you guys out, whoever you need help, and just see how you guys are doing. He'd see how they were doing. If they were screwing up, he'd let them know. He'd correct them in love. He'd write them a letter, because sometimes they get messengers coming by. Hey, these guys are screwing up. All right, we'll fix it. And he did. He'd write him a letter, send it off to him, and then he'd go back, follow up, with a follow-up meeting. And it was very cool how they, how the early church was built. It was very awesome. I definitely recommend you guys to read the book of Acts. It's a very cool book. A lot of stuff in there. Very awesome. So that's pretty much all I really got for you guys. So just a slight update. All right. So I'm working on doing that whole, video, everything, doing the live stream through video, YouTube, Twitter, live, whatever, doing all that kind of stuff. The problem is I can't do it just yet because I don't have, I'm trying to operate on this using a Wi-Fi, in which case I don't have the bandwidth in order to do it via Wi-Fi. So I'm going to have to run a hard line up here and do it that way with a hard line. So I don't have enough hard line to do it, so I got to go get some. All right, so that's what I'm being held up by right now. I mean, I can still do videos, but I can't do live, unfortunately. So I have everything set up now, just the way I'm liking it. It's very, very awesome. And so as soon as I get that, which, I mean, it might be next weekend by the time I'm actually, by the time I actually get it. But, I'll have it then. And cool times, man. I'm so looking forward to doing this and actually, getting her done. I truly am excited about this. I really am excited. So yeah, that's what I got going on that. All right, so that is all the show I've got for. If you guys have any, other stories that you'd, like me to cover in the next, in the next episode or any time really. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not restricted on how many shows I can do on this. It's just kind of whenever inspiration hits me, then, that's whenever I'll do, that's whenever I do a show. So, if you guys have any topics you want me to, touch base on, kind of get my 2 cents on, or, just get more of a scriptural base for it, I guess, if you want to call it that, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, and, I'll talk about it. I'll do an episode on it. So, totally up to you guys if you have anything you want to hit. Otherwise, just, different topics that I touch base on. I'll just do all kinds of random stuff. I mean, you guys know me. I'm all about the randomness. So, good times. So, all right. I thank you guys very much for joining me. And y'all have yourself a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.